Greetings and welcome to the channel for Sleepy Science. We'll be delving into the intriguing realm of intelligence tonight, that enigmatic trait that influences our thoughts, education, and perception of the universe. A notion that is both known and continually disputed, simple yet eternally complicated. Every facet of human existence is impacted by intelligence. From our decisions to the issues we resolve, from the connections we make to the art we produce. Throughout history, it has been quantified, examined, praised, and misinterpreted. However, what really is intelligence? How can we tell? And why does it have such a profound impact on our perceptions of others and ourselves? I encourage you to like, subscribe, or leave a brief remark if you appreciate my introspective musings. It also makes it easier for others to find their way here. One drowsy person at a time. For now, though, you just need to relax, find a place to call home, and let the peace of comprehension carry you. Let's get started. The beginnings of intellect, testing intelligence. The first purpose of testing was to help kids do well in school. Alfred Binet, a French psychologist, had to deal with a real-world problem in the early 1900s. The Paris educational system needed a method to determine which pupils needed more assistance, not to categorize them as less capable, but to make sure they got it. Together with his colleague Theodore Simon, Binet created a set of tests intended to assess cognitive skills such as problem-solving, memory, and attention. Given that a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old should be anticipated to perform differently, these challenges were age-appropriate. Although Binet's creation was groundbreaking, its goals were modest. His test was never meant to measure a fixed, unalterable attribute. According to him, intelligence was pliable and could improve with the right guidance and instruction. His test was not intended to be a rating system, but rather a tool for help. It would determine a child's current position so that teachers could meet them there and assist in their development. The concept was altruistic and based on the conviction that all children should have the chance to grow and learn. Binet's study immediately became popular outside of France and captivated psychologists all around the world. However, it changed as it went. In other hands, what started out as a helpful tool turned into something very different. Sometimes the test that was supposed to open doors ended up closing them. The IQ score develops. A mathematical formula gave rise to the term intellectual quotient. William Stern, a psychologist, suggested a novel method of expressing the test's results when it arrived in Germany. Stern recommended dividing the child's mental age by their chronological age and multiplying the result by 100, rather than just marking the age level at which the youngster performed. The intelligence quotient, or IQ, was thus produced. A 10-year-old would receive a score of 100 if they were performing at a 10-year-old level. A 10-year-old who performed at the level of a 12-year-old would receive a score of 120. The simplicity of the formula seemed elegant. It boiled down the intricacies of human thought to a single figure, simple to monitor and compare over time. By definition, a score of 100 was considered typical. Above-average scores indicated advanced development. Delays were indicated by scores below. The system seemed scientific, mathematical, and objective. Words don't always have the same authority as numbers. A score has a tangible, quantifiable, and authentic feel. However, there were unspoken presumptions behind this mathematical beauty. It made the assumption that intellect developed in a predictable, linear fashion. It made the assumption that intelligent performance was the same in all circumstances and civilizations. Like height or weight, it viewed the mind as something that could be usefully reduced to a single dimension. These presumptions were mostly accepted in the beginning, but they would eventually prove troublesome. The IQ score swiftly established itself as the accepted measure of intellect. It gradually made its way into popular culture after spreading to schools, military recruitment, and immigration screening. That straightforward calculation, mental age divided by chronological age times 100, became one of psychology's most important formulas. America gets intelligence testing. Intelligence testing was enthusiastically welcomed by American psychologists. The Stanford Binet IQ scale was developed by Lewis Terman at Stanford University, who modified Binet's test for American audiences. With more pieces and more meticulous standardization, Truman's version was larger than the original. He created a standard for what scores should be at each age by testing hundreds of kids to create norms. Terman was a strong proponent of intelligence testing. He started longitudinal studies that tracked high IQ people throughout the course of their lives because he believed it could be used to find bright kids who might not otherwise be acknowledged. Though perhaps not always what he had anticipated, his research provided valuable insights into the connection between assessed intelligence and life outcomes. Success in school and the workplace was linked to high IQ, but happiness, creativity, or wisdom were not assured. The American military started sorting recruits using intelligence tests during World War I. Millions of troops were evaluated using the Army Alpha test for literate soldiers and the Army Beta test for non-readers. Large volumes of data were produced by this extensive testing effort, but it also turned up some alarming trends. African Americans and immigrants from specific nations performed worse on average. Many psychologists regarded these findings as proof of intrinsic differences between groups, rather than considering the possibility that the tests were culturally biased. One of the darkest periods in psychology's history is the abuse of IQ testing to support discrimination. People from extremely varied backgrounds were subjected to generalizations about their talents based on tests created in a single culture and reflecting a single set of values and knowledge. Although the figures appeared to be objective, the interpretations were influenced by the biases prevalent at the time. What is truly measured by IQ tests? A variety of cognitive skills are evaluated by contemporary IQ tests. The Wechsler scales and other intelligence tests used now are much more advanced than those used in the past. Instead of generating a single score, they generate a profile of skills in various fields. The ability to comprehend and use words is measured by verbal comprehension. Visual, spatial abilities and pattern identification are evaluated using perceptual reasoning. The capacity to retain and work with knowledge in the mind is tested by working memory. The speed at which a person can finish basic cognitive activities is measured by their processing speed. Although the sum of these subtests yields an overall score, the distribution of strengths and weaknesses frequently matters just as much. It is possible for someone to be very good at verbal activities yet have trouble with spatial reasoning, or the other way around. This variation implies that intelligence is a multifaceted concept, a group of different but connected skills that interact in intricate ways. Academic intelligence is what the tests most accurately assess, the type of thinking that schools encourage. Formal education revolves around tasks like word definition, math problem solving, sequence memory, and pattern recognition. It should come as no surprise that IQ scores are a good indicator of academic success. Higher-scoring kids typically do better on standardized tests, receive better grades, and attend school longer. There is some error in the correlation. Motivation and personality are also important. However, it is persistent and considerable. However, some types of intelligence are either completely missed or only partially captured by traditional testing. the capacity to comprehend and control emotions, function in social settings, produce art or music, and apply practical thinking to real-world issues. In many situations in life, these types of intelligence might be just as significant as those determined by IQ tests, if not more so. Someone with a high IQ is not always a nice friend, a smart decision-maker, or a creative problem solver. The bell curve of intelligence IQ scores are distributed normally across populations. However, this may be helpful. The bell curve is a well-known form that appears when psychologists plot IQ values for sizable populations. With scores close to 100, the majority of people fall into the middle. In both directions, the numbers decrease equally and gradually as you walk out from the center. Scores that are extremely high or extremely low are uncommon and taper off around the distribution's margins. In nature, this pattern, known as a normal distribution, occurs. Similar curves can be seen in heights, weights, and many biological measures. According to the bell curve, the majority of variation is random and the result of numerous little elements coming together in various ways. Genes, diet, education, family environment, and a host of other factors may all have a role in IQ, each of which has a slight impact on the outcome. By definition, the standard deviation, which is a measure of spread, is fixed at 15 points, and the average IQ is set at 100. This indicates that roughly 68% of persons receive scores in the 85 to 115 range. 95% fall between 70 and 130. About 2 to 3% of people have scores above 130, whereas scores below 130/70 are rather rare. Even rarer are scores below 55 or above 145. Testing does not reveal these numbers. They are used in the scoring system for the tests. In order for the results to follow this trend, test creators modify the questions. This guarantees that test scores stay constant over time and among several iterations. It also implies that, unlike height, which is an absolute metric, IQ is essentially relative and a comparison to others. An IQ cannot be measured just in comparison to a reference group. A variety of intelligences exist. Psychologists understand that intelligence is more than just test scores. Howard Gardner defied conventional wisdom with his notion of multiple intelligences in the 1980s. He maintained that intelligence may be divided into at least 8 different categories, each of which is mostly independent of the others. Proficiency in language and words is a component of linguistic intelligence. Numbers, patterns, and reasoning are all aspects of logical mathematical intelligence. Visualizing and interacting with items in space is a component of spatial intelligence. The 3 components of musical intelligence are sound, melody, and rhythm. People with extraordinary control over their physical movements, such as sportsmen and dancers, exhibit bodily kinesthetic intelligence. People with interpersonal intelligence are able to comprehend and collaborate effectively with others. Self-awareness and a grasp of your own feelings and motivations are components of intrapersonal intelligence. Understanding plants, animals, and ecosystems, as well as identifying patterns in nature, are all components of naturalist intelligence. Many people agreed with Gardner's theory, particularly teachers who had long recognized that some exceptional students did well in other subjects but suffered in traditional academics. The athlete who has a remarkable ability to read a game, the musician with the ability to play by ear, the therapist who understands others intuitively. Even if they don't score highly on an IQ test, these people are truly intelligent. Critics point out that many of Gardner's intelligences would be better characterized as abilities or skills rather than types of intelligence. and that his hypothesis is not supported by actual data. The argument goes on, but the general idea remains the same. The cognitive capacities of humans are varied and complex. There isn't a single test that can account for all the ways someone can be intelligent. The importance of emotional intelligence is profound. It's possible that emotional intelligence is just as significant as cognitive ability. The idea of emotional intelligence was first proposed by psychologists Peter Salovey and John Mayer in the 1990s, and Daniel Goleman later popularized it. The ability to identify, comprehend, and control your own and other people's emotions is known as emotional intelligence. It encompasses abilities such as relationship management, social awareness, emotional control, and empathy. Emotionally intelligent people typically handle social situations with ease. They perceive others' emotions, interpret nonverbal clues, and react accordingly. They are able to control their own emotions, remaining composed under duress and bouncing back fast after failures. These skills are useful in almost every aspect of life, from fostering relationships to achieving success in the workplace. According to research, emotional intelligence can predict significant consequences that IQ alone cannot. Stronger teams and better conflict resolution are common outcomes of leaders with high emotional intelligence in the workplace. Relationship happiness and general well-being are positively correlated with emotional intelligence in personal life. Early emotional skill development in children is associated with improved social interactions and fewer behavioral issues. Emotional intelligence is something that can be cultivated throughout life, in contrast to IQ, which seems to be fairly constant beyond childhood. With practice and feedback, skills like perspective taking, emotion regulation, and active listening can be acquired and enhanced. Because of this, emotional intelligence is both democratic and hopeful, and it can be developed by anyone, regardless of cognitive exam results. Another aspect of the mind is creativity. Analytical intelligence and creative thinking function in separate ways. In his research on creativity, Arthur Clare defined it as the capacity to make unexpected connections between concepts from various fields. When someone connects seemingly unconnected ideas, they frequently discover a linkage that others have overlooked. The methodical logical reasoning assessed by IQ testing is not the same as this type of thinking. Divergent thinking, which produces numerous potential answers rather than settling on one, is a component of creativity. Highly creative people give lengthy, diverse answers when asked how many uses they can conceive of for a brick, including building materials, doorstops, weaponry, and art supplies. They transcend traditional classifications and perceive opportunities that others miss. Contrarily, convergent thinking, finding the single right answer for every question, is emphasized in IQ exams. According to research, creativity only weakly corresponds with IQ over a cutoff point of about 120. Greater inventiveness is not predicted by higher IQ scores. Many talented inventors, artists, and innovators have had IQs that are good but not remarkable. Their creativity, risk-taking attitude, ambiguity, tolerance, and perseverance in the face of adversity are what set them apart rather than their sheer cognitive prowess. Both independence and self-control are necessary for the creative mind. Freedom to experiment with concepts, to connect in unexpected ways. Discipline to hone those concepts, fully develop them, and make them a reality. The most innovative people frequently operate at the nexus of fields, illuminating one with knowledge from another. They blend creativity and analytical skills in ways that IQ testing cannot measure. Knowledge is applied to real-world situations by practical intelligence. The distinction between academic and practical intelligence was made by Robert Sternberg. Sternberg, who was researching intelligence, observed that while some individuals with limited academic qualifications were very adept at navigating the actual world, others who performed really well in school had difficulty in daily life. As a result, he put up a three-part triarchic theory of intelligence: intelligence that is practical, imaginative, and analytical. Applying knowledge to real-world circumstances is a component of practical intelligence, sometimes known as street smarts. It encompasses tacit knowledge, the unspoken guidelines and practices that control success in particular situations. A successful salesperson knows how to read clients and alter their proposal. A competent manager is aware of office politics and knows how to accomplish goals inside a company. A knowledgeable shopper knows how to get the greatest offers and manage tough purchasing decisions. Instead of being taught in a classroom, this type of intelligence is developed by experience. It calls for contextual awareness, adaptability, and the capacity to grow from both achievements and setbacks. Even with insufficient information, a person with high practical intelligence may rapidly assess a novel situation, determine what is important, and take appropriate action. Traditional IQ tests primarily disregard practical intelligence, since it is difficult to examine in standardized ways. There is rarely only one right response to the issues we encounter on a daily basis. They rely on goals, values, and circumstance. However, in many areas, practical intelligence may be just as good as academic intelligence at predicting life success. Even if a person has ordinary test scores, they are truly intelligent if they can mend a broken engine, negotiate a fair contract, or soothe an irate customer. Throughout childhood, intelligence grows beyond cognitive abilities. Over the course of a lifetime, abilities develop and evolve. The rate at which the brain develops in early life is astounding. As kids investigate their surroundings, pick up language, and become proficient in fundamental abilities, neural connections quickly form. Cognitive capacities also dramatically improve at this time of rapid growth. Memory grows, attentiveness improves, and reasoning abilities develop and get stronger. As kids become older, their IQ levels become more consistent. Although test results for very young children cannot accurately predict eventual intelligence, they begin to show stability by middle childhood. The IQ of a 10-year-old will probably be somewhat similar to that of a 20 or 30-year-old. Some people exhibit increases over time. Relative standing stays relatively constant for the majority of persons, while others exhibit declines. Intelligence is not fixed because of this steadiness. It indicates that the genetic and environmental variables that affect intelligence have a tendency to remain constant over time. When a child is 5 years old, they are likely to continue to benefit from a dynamic and encouraging environment when they are 15. A youngster is likely to experience difficulties such as poverty or insufficient schooling throughout their life. Long into early adulthood, cognitive capacities continue to grow. It is not until the mid-20s that the prefrontal cortex, which governs executive functions like planning, decision-making, and impulse control, reaches its complete maturity. Skills like abstract reasoning, complicated problem-solving, and combining information from several sources are still being developed by young individuals. Being 18 or 21 is not the end of intelligence. As we acquire information and experience, it keeps evolving. Both fluid and crystalline components are present in adult intelligence. There are two types of intellect that age differently, according to Raymond Cattell. The ability to reason logically and solve new issues without the aid of learned information is known as fluid intelligence. It requires the ability to recognize patterns, reason abstractly, and recognize connections. Early adulthood is when fluid intelligence peaks, and as people age, it progressively decreases. Learning new skills or solving novel challenges rapidly might be challenging for older persons. On the other hand, acquired knowledge and abilities are reflected in crystallized intellect. It consists of general knowledge, specialized knowledge, and vocabulary. As we grow older and gain more life experience and information, this type of intelligence usually rises. Although they might not be as fast at solving abstract tasks, older adults frequently have superior judgment on complicated matters and a deeper understanding of their fields of specialty. The fact that cognitive aging is more than just a tale of deterioration can be explained by this distinction. Wisdom, vocabulary, and specialized knowledge tend to increase with age, whereas working memory and processing speed tend to decline. Younger people lack the perspective, experience, and accumulated knowledge that older persons contribute, even though they may take longer to grasp new technologies. Cognitive skills vary depending on life stage. Our thought processes are shaped throughout our lives by the equilibrium between fluid and crystallized intellect. Young adults are excellent at tasks that call for quick thinking, flexibility, and learning. Middle-aged adults mix still strong fluid ability with rising knowledge. Older folks may find it difficult to tackle new problems and rely more on their prior expertise, but they thrive in situations where experience counts. We can better appreciate the contributions that each age makes to cognitive activities when we are aware of these trends. Intelligence is influenced by genes but not determined by them. Genetic factors to cognitive ability are revealed by twin research. Researchers can quantify genetic influence by comparing fraternal twins who share roughly half of their genes with identical twins who share all of their genes. Even when reared in the same home, identical twins typically score higher on IQ tests than fraternal twins. This implies that intellect is significantly influenced by genes. According to current estimates, between 50 and 80% of the diversity in IQ scores among populations can be attributed to genes. Heritability is a number that is frequently misinterpreted. It does not mean that 50 to 80% of your intelligence comes from genes. This indicates that between 50 and 80% of the differences among members of a population can be explained by genetic differences at a specific moment. The context affects heritability. Genetic differences are more significant in settings where everyone has access to resources, education, and a healthy diet, because environmental differences are less pronounced. Environmental differences are more significant in highly unequal environments. This implies that when civilizations evolve, estimates of heredity may also. Even if a trait is greatly influenced by the environment, it can nevertheless be highly heritable. Crucially, high heredity does not imply immutability. Height is very inherited. However, because of advancements in health and nutrition, average heights have significantly increased during the previous century. Similar to this, IQ scores have increased significantly over time. This is known as the Flynn effect. Although intelligence is still inherited, your environment influences where you fall within the range that your genes specify. Cognitive development is influenced by the environment. Experiences in early life have a significant impact on intellectual development. The environment shapes the development of the brain. Fetal brain development is impacted by mother stress, prenatal nutrition, and exposure to toxins from the moment of conception. Neural pathways are still shaped by the level of care, stimulation, and interaction after birth. Compared to infants raised in underprivileged or neglectful situations, those raised in responsive, language-rich contexts have faster cognitive development. Poverty has a variety of effects on IQ. Brain development can be hampered by poor diet. Neural systems are harmed by exposure to environmental pollutants such as lead. Children who experience chronic stress have trouble focusing and learning. Opportunities for cognitive development are limited when literature, educational resources, and stimulating experiences are inaccessible. The cumulative influence of these elements can be enormous. Though individual children demonstrate extraordinary resiliency, education plays a significant role in growing intelligence. There is a correlation between modest but significant increases in IQ tests and each extra year of education. Though that does occur, it is not the only reason why better kids attend school for longer. By teaching pupils how to think critically, solve problems, and arrange information, education actively develops cognitive talents. The variables that IQ tests evaluate are reinforced by the cognitive demands of formal schooling. Throughout life, enriching surroundings continue to promote cognitive performance. Developing new talents, maintaining mental activity, and interacting with difficult content all support the preservation and even improvement of cognitive capacities. Throughout life, the brain remains malleable, able to create new connections and adjust to novel situations. Through interaction with our surroundings, we continue to develop and preserve intelligence, which is not a fixed quantity we are born with. According to the Flynn effect, IQ scores increase with time. Over the years, IQ scores have significantly increased. James Flynn found something amazing when he looked at IQ statistics from numerous nations over a number of decades. Intelligence test raw scores had been increasing at a rate of roughly 3 points per 10 years. Accordingly, a person who scored 100 now would have done better than someone who did so a generation ago. This gradual increase is concealed by the frequent reordering of tests by test creators to maintain the average at 100. Although its intensity varies, the Flynn effect is present in all countries and civilizations. Tests of abstract reasoning have shown the biggest gains, while tests of vocabulary and math have shown the fewest. This trend implies that rather than just greater knowledge, the advances are a result of shifts in people's perspectives. The focus on abstract symbolic thinking in modern society may help develop skills that were not completely developed in previous generations. The Flynn effect is probably caused by a number of factors. Better brain development has been assisted by advancements in health and nutrition. More people acquire academic cognitive skills when their educational achievement rises. As the number of children in a household decreases, each youngster may receive more attention from their parents. Modern media may offer a type of cognitive training due to its visual and cognitive complexity. Scientific thought has shifted to becoming more abstract. There are serious concerns regarding intelligence raised by the Flynn effect. How much of intelligence is actually innate if environmental changes may raise IQ scores by such a large amount? The increase implies that human cognitive capacities are remarkably malleable and adaptable to changes in history and culture. It also emphasizes that test-measured intelligence takes into account both an individual's ability and how well that ability aligns with societal norms. Ethical concerns are raised by intelligence testing. Making important decisions based on test results is risky. Intelligence tests have been used historically to screen job candidates, assign individuals to educational tracks, and establish eligibility for services and programs. These applications presuppose that the tests assess something significant and immutable. However, Exams have flaws and are influenced by factors including motivation, test anxiety, cultural background, and chance. It is unethical to use a single score to make decisions about people that could change their lives. There have been disturbing instances of discrimination throughout the history of intelligence testing. Authorities utilized IQ testing to support immigration restrictions in the early 20th century, claiming that immigrants from particular nations were less intelligent than native-born people. People who hardly spoke English were given the tests, which were subsequently cited as proof of poor IQ. In a similar vein, intelligence testing was abused to sterilize those seen to be mentally ill and to support racial segregation. These past abuses serve as a reminder that biased individuals can turn scientific instruments into weapons. Just questions and scores may provide the impression that the tests are unbiased. However, their application, the findings reached, and the choices chosen all reveal human biases and values. Every test is influenced by the social environment in which it is developed and used. Current IQ testing practices aim to be more cautious and moral. Tests are not meant to identify youngsters as lacking. Rather, they are meant to identify those who require additional care. Scores are not regarded as final judgments. Rather, they are taken into account in conjunction with other data. Although absolute justice is still impossible, cultural fairness in testing has improved. Instead of limiting people's prospects, the purpose of testing is to help them identify their strengths and challenges. Variations in test scores by group. For a variety of reasons, our complicated average scores vary by demographic group. People from different demographic groups typically score differently on IQ tests, according to research. From a statistical perspective, these disparities are real. They show up consistently across samples and studies, but it takes caution to figure out what causes them. A complex combination of factors, such as socioeconomic disparity, educational access, cultural testing familiarity, stereotype threat, and possibly numerous other influences, are reflected in the discrepancies. Group differences don't provide us with any solid information about any one person. Simply put, group averages are averages. Those people from lower scoring groups perform better than those from higher scoring groups, as indicated by the large overlap in the distributions. It is unfair and irrational to judge a person by group statistics. Every individual should be judged according to their personal merits rather than the average performance of others who have similar demographic traits. There is still much disagreement on what drives group differences. Poverty, bigotry, and educational disparity are examples of environmental variables that some studies highlight. Others make the controversial and ill-supported argument that there may be genetic contributions. Most likely, there are intricate interactions between several components. Cultural norms around education, historical deprivation, persistent discrimination, and disparities in educational resources all play a part. The most important thing is to address these discrepancies rather than try to explain them. Society can and should address the issue of some groups not having as much access to high-quality education. We can try to lessen the stereotype threat if it causes some pupils to perform worse. We can create better exams if certain groups are disadvantaged by cultural biases in existing ones. Regardless of group membership, the objective should be to guarantee that everyone has the chance to completely develop their cognitive capacities. Test performance is impacted by stereotype danger. Cognitive performance may be hampered by anxiety related to validating unfavorable preconceptions. Claude Steele, a social psychologist, identified a phenomenon that he named stereotype danger. People may perform worse on pertinent activities if they are reminded of a negative stereotype about the group they belong to. For instance, Women's arithmetic test scores decrease when they are reminded that they are purportedly less proficient in the subject. African American kids score worse on tests that are characterized as measuring IQ than when they are informed otherwise. The way stereotype threat operates is by using up mental energy. Working memory and attention are depleted by anxiety and self-consciousness, leaving less space for the current activity. The individual is doing more than merely problem-solving. They are also keeping an eye on their performance, attempting to avoid errors and worrying about fitting the stereotype. Performance is hampered by this additional cognitive load, leading to a self-fulfilling prophecy in which the stereotype threat itself results in poorer scores. Stereotype danger has significant consequences. Some studies claim that the whole performance disparity between groups can be explained by stereotype threat. Performance gaps decrease or vanish completely when the danger is eliminated or diminished, for example, by presenting a test as not assessing or by exposing pupils to positive counter-stereotypes. This implies that rather than being due to actual variations in ability, at least some group variances in test scores are the result of social psychological factors. Comprehending the threat of stereotypes has applications. By framing assessments and learning settings differently, educators and test administrators might lessen its influence. Stressing development, learning from errors, and intelligence's adaptability aids in threat prevention. Negative stereotypes become less salient when inclusive environments are created where all kids feel like they belong. Students from stereotyped groups may see a significant improvement in their results from these programs. Being intelligent is not fate. Some things in life are predicted by high IQ, but not all of them. Individuals with higher average IQ scores also tend to be more educated, make more money, and work in more cognitively demanding jobs. They report greater health, are more likely to live longer, and are less likely to be incarcerated. These associations are genuine and significant. Test-measured intelligence has a predictable relationship with significant life outcomes. However, fate is not determined by correlation. Numerous successful, happy lives are led by people with moderate IQs. They discover employment that aligns with their skills, form meaningful connections, give back to their communities, and feel content and happy. Some high IQ people, on the other hand, battle addiction, depression, interpersonal issues, or just a lack of direction and purpose in life. Although intelligence can lead to opportunities, it does not ensure that you will be able to access them or know where you want to go. Success in life greatly depends on other attributes. Conscientiousness is the inclination to be trustworthy, disciplined, and well-organized. Predicts IQ and, occasionally, job performance more accurately. How successfully people navigate life is influenced by a variety of factors, including emotional stability, social skills, inventiveness, practical judgment, and fortitude in the face of adversity. While some of these traits may have some connection to intellect, they are also unique and significant in and of themselves. Most significantly, success itself has multiple dimensions. For some people, success entails both financial stability and professional success. Others interpret it as a sign of close family ties. For some others, success entails spiritual fulfillment, personal development, service to others, or artistic expression. Some of these objectives may benefit more from intelligence than others. It takes more than a high IQ to lead a meaningful life. It necessitates understanding your values and possessing the will and moral fiber to pursue them. The application of intellect is driven by motivation. Without effort, cognitive ability yields minimal results. Potential is intelligence, but drive is needed to realize that potential. There are many talented people throughout history who never accomplished anything because they lacked motivation, focus, or self-control. On the other hand, normal people who put in a lot of effort, persevere through challenges, and keep improving their abilities frequently achieve amazing results. While talent is important, effort and commitment are just as important. Carol Dweck's development mindset research sheds light on this relationship. Fixed mindset individuals think intelligence is a fixed quality that you either possess or lack. This idea may be restrictive. People give up easily when things get tough, shun trials that could show their shortcomings, and feel intimidated by the success of others. Growth-minded people think that intelligence can be acquired via work and education. They view effort as the route to mastery, accept difficulties, and persevere through disappointments. Achievement is influenced by mindset rather than aptitude. Due to their deeper engagement with learning, students with growth mindsets typically perform better than their similarly talented peers with fixed mindsets. Instead of giving up when they suffer, they try harder. They view their failures as learning opportunities rather than as proof of irreversible limitations. These variations in how people react to challenges eventually add up to significant disparities in performance. The message is upbeat. Tests of intelligence assess present skills rather than future potential. Most people may significantly improve their cognitive talents if they are motivated, use effective techniques, and put in consistent work. We actively develop intelligence throughout time by interacting with difficult content. It is not a fixed endowment. The willingness to put in the effort to learn is frequently the limiting issue rather than aptitude. Genius is intricate and multidimensional. Extraordinary achievement cannot be explained just by exceptionally high intelligence. When psychologists examine genius in literature, art, science, and other fields, they discover that while high intelligence is prevalent, it is insufficient. The majority of notable innovators and artists have IQs that are above average, frequently far above normal. But after a certain point, other considerations take precedence in identifying the trailblazing contributions. As was previously mentioned, creativity is not the same as intelligence. Problems can be expertly analyzed and solved by highly clever people. However, thinking outside of established frameworks is frequently necessary for disruptive innovation. The capacity to see what others have overlooked, to draw connections that only become clear in hindsight, and to explore unconventional concepts in the face of skepticism. These attributes are just as important as cognitive ability. How intellect is used is influenced by personality qualities. Creative success is closely linked to openness to experience or the propensity to seek out novel concepts and viewpoints. The persistent work required to create and perfect ideas is driven by conscientiousness. People who are resilient can endure setbacks and criticism. Collaboration and assistance can be obtained with the aid of social skills. Tools are provided by intelligence, but how they are used depends on personality. Opportunity and historical context are crucial. Many people who have the potential to be geniuses never have the opportunity to show or develop their skills. Who is able to contribute to their field is determined by their access to professional networks, resources, mentorship, and education. The types of accomplishments that are rewarded and acknowledged depend on cultural values. More often than we realize, luck, being in the right location at the right moment with the right idea, matters. Ability, personality, and situation come together to form genius. Specialized abilities are revealed by savant syndrome. Some people have exceptional skills in specific fields. A person with savant syndrome, who frequently has autism or developmental difficulties, exhibits exceptional skills in one area but performs at a significantly lower level overall. While suffering with fundamental living skills, a genius may be able to recall entire volumes after just one reading, execute difficult computations rapidly, or recreate intricate scenes in exquisite drawings. Musical savants, who frequently lack professional instruction, can perform difficult pieces after hearing them just once. Artists produce intricate, technically complex pieces. The day of the week for any date spanning thousands of years can be quickly found using calendar calculators. As if the brain had devoted extraordinary resources to one area at the expense of others, these skills appear to develop spontaneously. Savant syndrome calls into question accepted ideas about intelligence. What does it say about intellect if someone can compute cube roots instantly but can hardly speak? According to the condition, the mind is modular and made up of distinct systems that can function on their own rather than being unitary. Certain systems may be compromised by damage or developmental variations, while others may remain unaltered or even improved. The nature of ability and potential is also called into doubt by the existence of savant abilities. What capacities are dormant in normal brains if those with intellectual impairments can develop remarkable abilities? According to some psychologists, everyone has latent abilities that are typically suppressed by higher-order cognitive processes. Due to the way their brains function, saints may be able to directly exhibit abilities that most of us are unable to employ. The structure and function of the brain are related to intelligence. There is a slight correlation between IQ and brain size. There are weak but steady relationships between IQ scores and brain size, according to research. On intelligence tests, people with somewhat larger brains typically score slightly higher. The bond is weak. Although it only accounts for a small portion of the variance in IQ, brain size is a valid indicator. This is logical. Although there are other variables that affect the equation, greater brain tissue translates into more computing capacity. Neural networks' efficiency and structure are more important than their overall size. The ability of various brain regions to coordinate and communicate seems to be correlated with intelligence. Higher IQ individuals typically exhibit more effective neural processing, needing less brain activity to complete cognitive tasks. They get greater results with less effort because their brains are working smarter, not simply harder. Better wiring, increased axon myelination, or more efficient pruning of unnecessary connections could all contribute to this efficiency. Different facets of intelligence are linked to distinct brain regions. IQ is regularly associated with the prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of executive skills, including reasoning and planning. Another important part is played by the parietal cortex, which is engaged in mathematical reasoning and spatial processing. Cognitive performance is correlated with both the integrity of white matter connections and the thickness of cortical gray matter. The link between brain intelligence and intelligence is complicated and poorly understood, though. Instead of existing in a single location, intelligence arises from the coordinated activity of networks across the brain. These networks are shaped by experience, learning, development, and genetics. Two individuals may use somewhat different cerebral pathways to reach comparable levels of intellect. Because of its plasticity and adaptability, the brain can achieve cognitive objectives in a variety of ways. A key component of intelligent reasoning is working memory. Complex thinking is made possible by having the capacity to store and manipulate knowledge. Intelligence is based on working memory, which is the ability to retain information while using it. Working memory is used when you mentally solve a math problem, follow a convoluted argument, or organize a sequence of steps. It serves as a kind of mental workplace where ideas are generated, containing presumptions, interim findings, and objectives as you strive for a solution. Intelligence differences are predicted by individual differences in working memory capacity. On IQ exams, people who are able to retain more information at once typically perform better. This is logical. Juggling several things is necessary for many cognitive processes. Processing the end of a complex statement requires remembering the beginning. Recalling intermediate answers while calculating the subsequent step is necessary to solve a multi-step problem. More complicated reasoning is made possible by larger working memory capacity. Everyone has limited working memory, although young children and older adults have it more than others. Although this varies by person and the type of knowledge, the average adult can store roughly 7 items of information in working memory at once. By using techniques like chunking, the grouping of discrete objects into more significant, larger units, and offloading information to external supports like notes and diagrams, we are able to increase the amount of working memory we have. Working memory is frequently the focus of cognitive training programs in the hopes that gains will translate to general intelligence. There is conflicting evidence. Performance on working memory tasks themselves can be enhanced by training. It is still up for discussion, though, if these benefits result in more significant cognitive advancements. Nevertheless, working memory is obviously essential to our cognitive processes, a restriction that limits the types of mental processes we are capable of. Cognitive performance is impacted by processing speed. Intelligence is influenced by the brain's rate of information processing. Some think quickly, processing information, connecting ideas, and coming up with solutions. Others process the same information more slowly and take longer. IQ scores are correlated with processing speed as determined by tests such as rapidly matching symbols or cancelling target items. Better performance on challenging cognitive tasks seems to be supported by faster processing. There is more to the relationship between speed and intelligence than just the fact that intelligent individuals think more quickly. Instead, more tasks can be accomplished within the constraints of working memory thanks to faster processing. Rapid information encoding and manipulation allow you to do more before previously learned information is forgotten. A cascade advantage results from this. Complexity, which permits more advanced thought, is made possible by speed. As people age, their processing speed eventually decreases. Of the most reliable conclusions in studies on cognitive aging, it takes longer for older persons to process information, react to stimuli, and complete cognitive activities. Age-related impairments in other cognitive capacities are exacerbated by this slowdown. Complex reasoning becomes more challenging, and working memory is more taxed when everything takes longer. However, older folks frequently make up for this by using their expertise and strategic thinking. In addition to being impacted by factors like attention, practice, and familiarity, individual variances in processing speed are also somewhat intrinsic and connected to brain efficiency and the speed of nerve transmission. An expert in a field processes pertinent information far more quickly than a novice. Your brain has become adept at identifying patterns and omitting processes that aren't necessary. Speed is influenced by both learning software and raw hardware. Attention is shaped. The ability to focus is one of the things that intellect may achieve. Cognitive efficacy is determined by mental resources. Attention is necessary for intelligence, the ability to filter out distractions and choose pertinent information. Performance worsens if you are unable to concentrate on the task at hand, regardless of how strong your cognitive systems are. The gatekeeper, attention, decides what data gets processing resources and goes into working memory. The act of paying attention consists of several parts. The capacity to stay focused over time is known as sustained attention. Filtering aside unimportant information while focusing on what really matters is known as selective attention. Managing several information streams at once is known as divided attention. Controlling where attention goes, purposefully switching between tasks, or maintaining focus in the face of distraction are all examples of executive attention. These all play a part in intelligent behavior. Variations in measured IQ are influenced by variations in attentiveness. Because it is difficult for them to focus during lengthy assessments, people with attention deficit problems frequently score lower on IQ tests. This is not because they lack cognitive ability. Their performance frequently improves when their concentration is boosted by medicine or changes to their surroundings. This demonstrates that IQ testing assesses both reasoning skills and attention. Attention is continuously challenged in modern situations. Notifications buzz on phones, screens provide countless distractions. Additionally, multitasking has become commonplace. However, the brain was not made for divided attention or constant task switching. The best method for learning effectively and thinking clearly is still to concentrate intently on one thing at a time. Preserving focus. One of the most crucial things we can do to assist intelligence may be to create circumstances that encourage prolonged focus. Pattern recognition is a component of intelligence. The ability to recognize links and patterns is essential to cognition. Finding patterns is a big part of what we call intelligence. You are identifying patterns when you solve an analogy, comprehend a metaphor, forecast the next step in a sequence, or comprehend the structure behind an issue. Intelligent conduct is characterized by the capacity to see patterns in the environment, draw broad conclusions from particular instances, and apply those conclusions to novel circumstances. Pattern recognition is emphasized strongly in IQ exams. Matrix reasoning tests assess your ability to recognize the rule by presenting visual patterns with one missing piece. You are asked to identify and follow the pattern in the number series. Analogies necessitate observing connections. These exercises evaluate a fundamental cognitive skill, the ability to abstract similarities between various situations and use those abstractions to direct one's thinking. Experience helps people recognize patterns. You may spot more patterns in a domain the better you understand it. A chess master can quickly assess positions and moves because they can see patterns in board positions that a novice cannot. A physician can identify patterns of symptoms that point to a diagnosis. A proficient reader recognizes patterns in the text that aid in understanding and forecasting. Part of being an expert is building up a library of patterns that help you think more effectively. The drawback of pattern recognition is that we occasionally interpret randomness as significance and perceive patterns that do not exist. Our tendency to look for patterns usually works to our advantage, but it can also work against us. It takes more than simply pattern awareness to distinguish genuine patterns from fake ones. Statistical reasoning and critical thinking are also necessary. Knowing when you have discovered a true pattern and when you have been duped by chance is a sign of intelligence. Intelligence is shaped and reflected in language proficiency. A key component of assessed IQ is verbal proficiency. Humans are unique in their use of language, and our linguistic capacities both reflect and facilitate intelligence. Verbal IQ tests evaluate verbal reasoning, vocabulary, understanding of complex language, and clear idea expression. There is a high correlation between overall IQ and performance on these activities. Individuals with robust language abilities and extensive vocabularies typically have high IQ scores. Language gives us the means to think. We can think about concepts more readily when we have words for them. The capacity to create intricate ideas is reflected in the ability to generate complicated sentences with embedded clauses. Reading introduces us to concepts, viewpoints, and data that broaden our understanding and perspective. Writing compels us to arrange and make sense of our ideas. Communication of intelligence is not the only use of language. It functions as a conduit for intelligence. Children who are raised in linguistically diverse environments exhibit cognitive benefits. Reading, conversing, and hearing a variety of words all promote cognitive development. The well-known 30 million word gap describes how children from various socioeconomic backgrounds are exposed to language differently. Before school even started, children from professional homes were exposed to millions more words than children from lower-income families by the time they were 3 years old. There may be cognitive advantages to bilingualism. Speaking more than one language seems to improve executive function, which includes the capacity to control attention, transition between tasks, and suppress automatic reactions. Bilinguals must continually use cognitive control to choose the right language and inhibit the other. Although the results are minor and up for discussion, some research indicates that this mental exercise improves executive functions more generally. Intelligent functioning is supported by memory systems. Different memory kinds support various cognitive processes. Large volumes of information are stored in long-term memory. Everything you are aware of, including world facts and personal experiences. Intelligence depends on this body of knowledge. Your ability to reason more effectively, comprehend new information better, and develop connections increases with your level of knowledge. Intelligence encompasses both the depth of stored knowledge and processing power. Personal experiences are stored in episodic memory, which helps you recall life events. Concepts and facts are stored in semantic memory. Your worldly knowledge, procedural memory, storage skills, and your ability to play an instrument or ride a bike. Each of these makes a unique contribution to intelligent behavior. Examples and context are provided by episodic memory. Semantic memory provides contextual information. Learned skills can be executed automatically thanks to procedural memory. Intelligence and memory are linked. Gaining more knowledge through improved memory facilitates improved thinking. Improved reasoning facilitates more efficient knowledge encoding and organization, which enhances memory. Higher IQs are typically associated with stronger memory. Memory can be trained and enhanced through techniques including elaboration, organizing, and spaced practice, despite the imperfect nature of the relationship. Forgetting is a crucial cognitive function, as well as a failure. The brain keeps combining memories, making some connections stronger while letting others wane. By eliminating unimportant information, this method helps us keep what matters. A perfect memory may actually reduce intelligence by overloading the mind with unimportant details. Selective, intelligent memory systems retain what is important and discard what is not. The core of intelligence is the ability to solve problems. Cognitive talents are revealed when faced with new obstacles. Perhaps the most important component of intelligence is the ability to solve problems. Your cognitive abilities come into play when you are faced with a novel problem that lacks a clear solution. You need to comprehend the issue, find pertinent data, come up with potential solutions, weigh your options, and carry out your plan. Dovita uses a variety of cognitive processes in this process. Coordination. Strategies and heuristics are often effective mental shortcuts used by effective problem solvers. Divide difficult issues into manageable chunks. From the goal, work your way back. Think about comparisons to related issues you have resolved. Start by testing basic scenarios. While they increase the likelihood of discovering answers, these tactics do not ensure them. Having a toolset of problem-solving techniques and understanding when to use them is a component of intelligence. Certain challenges, such as math problems or puzzles, have precise objectives and guidelines. Others are complicated, poorly defined, real-world problems with many parties involved, competing objectives, and ambiguous data. In the actual world, intelligence frequently entails resolving vague issues, defining objectives, controlling limitations, and coming up with practical rather than ideal solutions. This calls for adaptability, ambiguity, tolerance, and sound judgment. Practice and criticism help you get better at solving problems. You get better at a domain the more issues you solve in it. You gain intuition, identify different kinds of problems, and expand your toolkit of solutions. Experts use their vast knowledge and higher structural understanding to tackle problems in a different way than novices. This knowledge is domain-specific. Although universal problem-solving abilities can be cultivated and used widely, being an expert in physics does not equate to being one in social settings. Analogical thinking allows information to be applied to novel contexts. Learning is aided by seeing connections between several disciplines. Analogies are effective cognitive tools. Analogical reasoning is the process by which you make sense of something new by relating it to what you already know. With electrons circling the nucleus, the atom resembles a solar system. The heart circulates blood like a pump. Through connections to the familiar, analogies help make the unknown understandable and transfer knowledge from one field to another. Understanding when analogies are applicable and applying them skillfully are components of intelligence. Not every analogy has the same value. While profound structural connections can shed light, surface-level similarities can be misleading. Cognitive sophistication is demonstrated by the capacity to discern what actually corresponds between domains by separating surface aspects from underlying relationships. Analogical reasoning skills enable us to think more creatively and learn more quickly. Through analogy, numerous mathematical and scientific discoveries have been made. By identifying similarities between seemingly unconnected phenomena, scientists were able to create new hypotheses. Ideas are frequently transferred from one sector to another by technological breakthroughs. Birdwatching served as an inspiration for the invention of flight. The biological brain served as an inspiration for computer neural networks. By demonstrating the applicability of information from one field to another, analogical thinking stimulates innovation. Analogical teaching works well, but it needs to be done carefully. By relating a complex idea to previously learned information, a well-chosen comparison can make it instantly understandable. However, analogies are seldom flawless. If you push them too far, they break down. Both the analogy's strengths and weaknesses must be understood by the students. In order to employ analogies effectively, one must be aware of their limitations while utilizing their ability to introduce novel concepts. Advanced reasoning is made possible by abstract thought. Cognitive sophistication is the capacity to think beyond narrow details. Thinking abstractly entails working with ideas rather than concrete examples. You think about dogs as a category rather than this specific dog and that specific dog. You comprehend broad concepts rather than detailed mathematical computations. Thinking abstractly enables you to reason about general concepts, hypothetical scenarios, and intricate linkages while transcending your immediate experience. One significant turning point in cognitive development is the emergence of abstract thought. Young children's thinking is tangible and connected to particular circumstances and objects. Their capacity for abstract reasoning increases with maturity. Teenagers learn to reason about possibilities, think speculatively, and comprehend abstract ideas like justice, freedom, and infinity. This change allows for new ways of thinking and learning. IQ tests include a variety of tasks to evaluate abstract thought. Seeing abstract relationships is necessary for analogies. Finding abstract patterns is a component of matrix reasoning. Similarity assignments inquire as to what abstract category connects several items. The ability to recognize underlying structure and take a step back from specific details is measured by these exercises. Greater proficiency in abstraction is reflected in higher scores. In contemporary societies, abstract thought is culturally valued. High levels of abstraction are used in philosophy, law, mathematics, and science. Comfort with abstract ideas and the capacity to reason about them are necessary for success in these fields. However, there are other beneficial forms of cognition outside abstract thought. In many situations, practical, pragmatic thinking is important. When circumstances call for it, the best thinkers are able to switch between the concrete and the abstract with ease. Intelligence is not the same as wisdom. It takes more than just cognitive ability to make wise decisions. Though they are different, wisdom and intellect are frequently mistaken. Cognitive ability is the essence of intelligence. Your capacity for learning, reasoning, and problem-solving. Judgment, knowing what's important, comprehending human nature, and making wise life choices are all components of wisdom. It is possible to be extremely intellectual but foolish, or to be excellent at analysis but bad at making decisions in life. Researchers in psychology who research wisdom pinpoint a number of elements. Cognitive complexity is the capacity to accept ambiguity and see things from several angles. Emotional control, emotion management, and clear thinking. Reflective thinking, which involves deliberating over choices rather than responding on impulse. Social sensitivity is the awareness of how one's activities impact other people. These traits are acquired from experience and frequently build up gradually over the course of a lifetime. Age tends to increase wisdom. Though they may think more slowly, older folks tend to make wiser decisions than those with fluid intelligence, which peaks early. They have greater life experience, have made mistakes and learned from them, and have watched events play out over time. Younger, more mentally agile people might not have the perspective that comes from this body of experience. While aging may cause cognitive slowness, it also gives wisdom. Building intellect is not the same as cultivating wisdom. Cognitive training and practicing solving abstract riddles won't increase your knowledge. Reflecting on past experiences, thinking through moral and ethical dilemmas, and growing in self-awareness and empathy are all ways that wisdom is developed. It calls for humility, acknowledging the complexity of human circumstances and the boundaries of your expertise. Wisdom is experience-tempered intelligence focused on the important things. The expression and value of intellect are influenced by culture. Different cognitive capacities are valued in different communities. Cultural differences exist in what is considered intellectual. Rapid problem-solving, abstract reasoning, and analytical thinking are valued in Western industrialized nations. These are the skills that schools evaluate, quantify, and award using IQ tests. However, different types of intelligence are valued in different societies. Some place a strong emphasis on interpersonal understanding and social peace. Others value tangible information and talents. Others prize wisdom and spiritual understanding. These variations show the requirements and ideals of each culture. Social intelligence is crucial in societies where intricate social collaboration is necessary for existence. In societies where navigation and environmental knowledge are vital, spatial and naturalist intelligence are esteemed. Strong oral traditions foster highly developed linguistic and memory abilities in communities. Every intelligence is contextualized, influenced by opportunities and cultural needs. Western cultural ideals and expertise are reflected in IQ tests. They presume knowledge of formal education, reading, taking tests, and thinking analytically and abstractly. It's possible for people from cultures with distinct educational traditions or beliefs to perform poorly on tests that don't evaluate the skills they've been taught in their culture, rather than because they lack intelligence. For this reason, it is challenging to use standardized IQ testing across cultures without thorough adaptation. Cultural psychology acknowledges the cultural influence on cognition. Different cultures have different ways of seeing, remembering, reasoning, and problem-solving. East Asian cultures have a tendency to think more holistically, taking relationships and context into account. Western cultures lean toward more analytic thinking, focused on objects and qualities. Neither is smarter. Each civilization has evolved and perfected these distinct ways of thinking. Domain-specific intelligence is demonstrated through expertise. Cognitive performance is transformed by in-depth knowledge in a field. Extensive knowledge and practice are necessary for outstanding performance in every field, according to expertise research. Athletes, musicians, medical diagnosticians, and chess masters all have cognitive skills in their fields that well surpass what IQ indicates. Their performance reflects years of collected knowledge and intentional practice in addition to general intellect. Experts and novices have various ways of thinking. They detect patterns that novices miss. They increase effective working memory by breaking up information into understandable chunks. They automatically identify different kinds of problems and retrieve pertinent solutions. What looks like magical intuition is actually highly ordered knowledge, enabling speedy, precise processing. Expertise is the result of knowledge and practice compounded by intelligence. Expertise necessitates thousands of hours of concentrated, difficult practice, according to Anders Ericsson's studies on deliberate practice. It is insufficient to merely perform an action repeatedly. Deliberate practice entails stepping beyond one's comfort zone, recognizing one's shortcomings, and making a concerted effort to get better. Feedback, introspection, and constant improvement are necessary. Expertise is not created by time alone. Improvement is achieved by concentrated work. Expertise in one field does not necessarily translate to other fields due to domain specialization. A talented scientist is not always an excellent manager, chef, or therapist. Every domain requires the development of a unique set of skills and knowledge. Expertise is developed via domain-specific learning and practice, whereas general intelligence serves as a foundation. This serves as a reminder that intelligence is a collection of diverse skills. Because of neuroplasticity, the brain is malleable. The brain can continue to develop and adapt throughout life. For a long time, researchers thought that the adult brain was set in stone and could not change its shape or make new connections. This opinion has been refuted by research. Neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to rearrange and create new neural connections in response to experience and learning, remains intact. This adaptability lasts a lifetime, but childhood and adolescence are the times when it is most prevalent. Learning alters the brain physically. Your brain creates new synapses and fortifies old ones when you learn a new ability, practice playing an instrument, or commit knowledge to memory. It's possible that the task's participating regions will get bigger and more intricately linked. The brain areas involved in spatial navigation increase in London cab drivers who have to memorize the intricate arrangement of the city's streets. Literally, their brains adjust to the demands made of them. Cognitive abilities can be developed at any age due to plasticity. Adults can still learn and grow significantly, even though some talents are easier to pick up while they are younger. Cognitive challenges help older persons keep cognitively active and acquire new abilities, which improves their cognitive performance. The brain functions according to the maxim, use it or lose it. Active relationships get stronger, while inactive ones get weaker. Gaining knowledge about neuroplasticity is empowering. It indicates that with consistent work, suitable challenges, and productive practice, you are not limited by your current cognitive capacities. Your mind can be strengthened. You actively develop intelligence throughout your life, rather than it being a set endowment. How you use the brain you have today will determine the brain you have tomorrow. Cognitive function requires sleep. The brain can integrate learning and eliminate waste when it is rested. Sleep is an active process that is necessary for intellect, not just a period of rest. The brain moves information from short-term to long-term storage when you sleep, consolidating memories. Additionally, it maintains the health of the neurons by eliminating metabolic waste products that build up while you're awake. When people don't get enough sleep, their cognitive abilities quickly decline. Lack of sleep affects almost all cognitive functions. Waking attention makes it difficult to concentrate. The amount of working memory decreases, processing becomes slower, decision-making suffers, and judgment deteriorates. Ingenuity declines. Deficits build up over time even with moderate sleep limitation, such as receiving 6 hours instead of 8. Cognitive impairment is one function of chronic sleep deprivation that significantly lowers functional intelligence. The purposes of the various sleep stages vary. Consolidating facts and experiences through declarative memory seems to depend on deep, slow-wave sleep. REM sleep fosters creativity and procedural memory by facilitating the creative integration of new and pre-existing knowledge. These phases are repeated several times during a full night's sleep, and each one aids in the improvement and restoration of cognition. One of the most crucial things you can do for your intelligence is to prioritize your sleep. Chronic sleep loss cannot be made up for by cognitive stimulation or training. Getting enough sleep is essential. Most individuals need between 7 and 9 hours. It enables the brain to preserve and improve its capacities and supports all facets of cognitive function. Sleep is an investment in your cognitive health, not a waste of time. Brain development and function are impacted by nutrition. Our cognitive abilities are influenced by our diet. Despite making up only 2% of the body weight, the brain uses 20% of the energy. To operate at its best, it needs a steady supply of nutrients, oxygen, and glucose. Acute cognitive impairment and long-term harm during development can result from poor nutrition. For brain health, some nutrients are very crucial. Neural membranes and brain development depend on omega-3 fatty acids. B vitamins help brain cells use energy more efficiently. Neurotransmitter synthesis and oxygen transport both require iron. Cognitive function can be hampered by deficiencies in essential nutrients, especially in developing brains. Malnourished children may suffer from long-lasting cognitive impairments during crucial growth stages. Additionally susceptible to poisons is the brain. Even low amounts of lead exposure impair brain development and reduce IQ. Mercury, certain pesticides, and other environmental pollutants damage the brain, and prenatal alcohol consumption results in fetal alcohol syndrome, which involves intellectual disabilities. It is essential to shield kids from these exposures in order to promote the best possible cognitive development. Cognitive function is supported by a nutritious diet throughout life. Diets high in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and healthy fats may help prevent age-related decline and are linked to improved cognitive results. Numerous studies have examined the effects of the Mediterranean diet on cognitive health. Overall dietary patterns are important for maintaining healthy brain function, even though no single meal is a magical brain booster. Exercise is good for the body and the mind. Cognitive function is improved by physical activity. Exercise has significant advantages for the brain in addition to the body. Increased blood flow from physical activity gives neuronal tissue more oxygen and nutrients. It promotes the release of growth factors that aid in the development of new synapses and neurons. Frequent exercise is linked to a lower risk of dementia, slower age-related decline, and improved cognitive function. It seems that aerobic exercise is very good for the brain. Running, swimming, and cycling are examples of activities that increase heart rate because they increase the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that promotes the growth and survival of neurons. Research indicates that improved executive function, memory, and attention are all correlated with aerobic fitness. Regular exercise, even in little doses, improves cognitive function. There are several ways that exercise might be beneficial. It lessens oxidative stress and inflammation, two factors that can harm brain tissue. It enhances the quality of sleep. It lessens worry and stress, which affect cognitive function. It might encourage neuroplasticity, which would facilitate learning and adaptation. The consequences are obvious, but the processes are still being figured out. People who are active think more clearly. Including movement in regular activities promotes mental well-being. It is not necessary for you to become an athlete. Regular walking has advantages as well. Consistency is crucial. Establishing a routine of physical activity. Engaging in physical activity during school breaks helps kids and teenagers perform better in class later on. Maintaining an active lifestyle benefits elderly persons' cognitive capacities. The body and mind are intricately linked and not distinct. Cognitive engagement is stimulated by social interaction. Making connections with other people is a mental workout. Since humans are social animals, social engagement requires sophisticated cognitive functions. It takes sophisticated thinking to follow talks, interpret social cues, comprehend other people's viewpoints, and navigate relationships. Rich social lives are associated with improved cognitive function and shorter aging-related cognitive decline. Social isolation and loneliness are risk factors for cognitive deterioration. They are linked to accelerated cognitive aging and increased dementia rates. Inflammation, stress, and a lack of cognitive stimulation are some possible reasons. Social connection stimulates the intellect by posing new problems and calling for adaptable thinking. Without it, inactivity may cause cognitive ability to deteriorate. In social ties, quality is more important than quantity. It seems better to have a small number of deep, meaningful relationships than a large number of shallow ones. The strongest cognitive benefits come from relationships that are marked by mutual support, trust, and stimulating discourse. On the other hand, long-term stress from conflict and strained relationships can affect cognitive performance. Social cognitive skills are a type of intelligence in and of themselves: cooperation, relationship management, and understanding others. The cognitive demands of these abilities are comparable to those of solving abstract riddles. They make use of theory of mind, which is the capacity to recognize that other people think and feel differently than you do. They call for communication and emotional control. As a valid and significant type of cognitive ability, social intelligence merits acknowledgement. Learning and intellectual development are fueled by curiosity. Cognitive development is driven by the desire to learn and comprehend. People who are curious look for fresh knowledge, pose inquiries, and investigate novel concepts. Intellectual development is fueled throughout life by this need to learn. People who are curious read a lot, interact with difficult content, and become experts. It is the driving force behind learning new things and developing new abilities. Youngsters are inherently inquisitive and frequently question how and why. As they investigate their surroundings and develop a grasp of how the world functions, a large portion of their early learning is motivated by this curiosity. As kids become older, fostering and sustaining their curiosity helps them continue to develop cognitively. Unfortunately, traditional education, which prioritizes memorization over inquiry and discovery, can sometimes stifle curiosity rather than encourage it. Regardless of IQ, curiosity is linked to both professional and academic performance. Because they are driven to comprehend rather than merely memorize, curious kids learn more. Employees that are curious pick up knowledge more quickly and adjust to new situations more easily. When it comes to assessing an individual's intellectual growth, curiosity can be just as significant as aptitude. Intelligence is supported by fostering curiosity in both ourselves and others. Investigate subjects that pique your interest and pose inquiries. Read widely in a variety of fields. Engage with concepts that contradict your preconceived notions. Establish spaces where asking questions is welcomed and errors are viewed as teaching moments. Intelligence is not limited to your current abilities. It also includes your growth trajectory and the curiosity that propels it ahead. The connection between creativity and intelligence. Creative brains frequently operate beyond accepted limits. Individuals with the highest IQs have not always been the most innovative people throughout history. Although intelligence gives one the means to be creative, creativity itself demands more. The readiness to defy expectations, to perceive opportunities that others overlook, and to put up with ambiguity and uncertainty. Thinking creatively frequently entails challenging presumptions that others take for granted, pursuing seemingly fruitless avenues, and persevering in the face of slow progress. A key component of creativity is divergent thinking, or the capacity to come up with numerous potential answers. The majority of people immediately agree on traditional solutions to problems. Creative people are diverse, integrating concepts in new ways, investigating odd possibilities, and recognizing connections that are not immediately apparent. Convergent analytical thinking is not replaced by this type of thinking, but rather enhanced by it. Divergence to develop possibilities and convergence to refine and implement them are typically necessary for the most creative work. It needs more than just cognitive ability to be creative. It needs guts to go for unorthodox ideas, fortitude to keep going in the face of setbacks and criticism, and internal drive to keep going even in the absence of rewards from others. Because they lack these attributes, many exceptionally clever people never produce anything especially unique. They might be quite good at evaluating and comprehending pre-existing concepts, but they struggle to come up with truly original ones. Creativity is either encouraged or inhibited by environments. Creative thinking is discouraged in businesses and schools that penalize errors and encourage conformity. It is fostered by those who appreciate uniqueness, accept failure, and encourage experimentation. The distinction between creative and non-creative people may be based as much on their experiences and surroundings as on their intrinsic skills. Activities that promote playfulness, discovery, and ambiguity tolerance can foster creativity. Being gifted has benefits and drawbacks. Unique experiences are produced by exceptionally high intelligence. Alongside their benefits, brilliant children, who often score above 130 on IQ tests, face unique hurdles. Since they are more engaged in concepts and abstractions than in the usual childhood issues, they could feel out of step with their age peers. Socially, they could have trouble finding many others who are as intense and interested as they are. It can be alienating to be different, even if that uniqueness has benefits. Children that are gifted frequently grow asynchronously. Their emotional and social development is typical, but their cerebral prowess may be years ahead of their age. Even though a 10-year-old has the emotional requirements of a youngster, they may read at a college level. The child, parents, and teachers may get confused and frustrated as a result of this mismatch. It is necessary to acknowledge that giftedness influences only a portion of development in order to comprehend and promote asynchronous development. Not every gifted youngster performs at a high level. Some perform below what their abilities indicate is possible, resulting in underachievement. High intelligence does not ensure motivation or success for a variety of reasons, such as a lack of challenge that leads to boredom, perfectionism that paralyzes effort, social pressure to fit in, learning difficulties that coexist with giftedness, or just a lack of interest in traditional academic achievement. Giving bright kids the right kind of challenge and understanding is essential to their success. They require chances to work at their own pace, to be challenged intellectually, and to connect with peers who share their interests and skills. They also require assistance negotiating the challenges of being different, as well as support for their social and emotional growth. Being gifted is a quality that affects experience in certain ways, offering both obstacles and benefits. It is not a guarantee of an easy existence. Mental health and intelligence are complicated. Psychological well-being and related cognitive ability interact in complex ways. According to some studies, people with high levels of intelligence may be more susceptible to specific mental health issues. Emotional experiences can become more overpowering due to the intensity and sensitivity that frequently accompany high intelligence. Anxiety can be exacerbated by overthinking or the need to examine everything, including feelings and social interactions. High achievers' tendency toward perfectionism leads to ongoing stress and failure-related anxiety, but intelligence can also serve as a shield. More efficient problem resolution, including resolving interpersonal and emotional issues, is supported by improved cognitive capacities. Better comprehension of mental health difficulties and a higher propensity to seek treatment when necessary are linked to higher IQ. Cognitive abilities can be used to navigate challenging circumstances, comprehend oneself, and control emotions. There are probably a lot of variables that affect the connection between mental health and IQ. Coping mechanisms, social support, living circumstances, and personality all play a role. Although intelligence influences how people experience and react to psychological difficulties, it does not by itself predict mental health outcomes. Despite cognitive advantages, a highly brilliant individual who has strong emotional control and social support may flourish, whereas someone without these things may suffer. It takes more than just cognitive development to support mental health. Well-being is influenced by emotional intelligence, stress reduction, wholesome relationships, and a feeling of direction and significance. To highly intelligent people, this may entail developing the ability to connect with people despite intellectual disparities, to endure ambiguity without overanalyzing it, and to calm an overly analytical mind. Mental health is about the whole person overcoming obstacles in life, not just intelligence. The importance of self-assurance and faith. What we accomplish is influenced by our perception of our own ability. Self-efficacy. Believing that you can complete a task successfully has a significant impact on performance. Those who have faith in their ability to succeed face obstacles with vigor and perseverance. People who have self-doubt may shy away from difficulties, give up easily, or perform nervously. Self-fulfilling prophecies are produced by these behavioral disparities. While doubt results in avoidance, which validates the doubt, confidence leads to success, which boosts confidence. There is an uneven relationship between confidence and real skill. Some extremely talented people experience imposter syndrome, which makes them feel like fakes, even when their skill is obvious. Others exhibit overconfidence because they think they are more competent than they actually are. The calibrated confidence is the optimal pattern. Accurate self-evaluation combined with faith in one's ability to grow and learn. This enables people to take on suitable challenges without being constrained by excessive skepticism or misguided by overconfidence. Accurate feedback and attribution are necessary for developing healthy confidence. Acknowledging your contribution to success increases efficacy. Seeing failure as a learning opportunity rather than a sign of incompetence helps you stay motivated. Praising tactics and effort rather than natural talent aids in children's development of growth-oriented confidence. They come to view obstacles as chances rather than dangers. The idea that intelligence in particular can be developed transforms everything. Pupils who think intelligence is fixed steer clear of tasks that could expose their shortcomings. People that think it can grow look for problems as chances to grow. Divergent trajectories are produced over time by this difference in thinking, which is examined in Carol Dweck's research. Students with a fixed perspective reach a plateau, whereas those with a growth mindset keep improving, not because of differences in aptitude, but rather because of how they handle challenges. Learning and problem-solving are improved by metacognition. Cognitive performance is enhanced when you reflect on your own thought processes. One of the most effective cognitive tools is metacognition, or the awareness and comprehension of your own thought processes. It entails being aware of your strengths and weaknesses, keeping an eye on your reading or listening comprehension, assessing the effectiveness of your problem-solving methodology, and modifying your approach as necessary. Expert learners are distinguished from novices by metacognitive abilities. Effective students keep a close eye on their comprehension. When something doesn't make sense when they're reading, they take note and may reread, look up a word, or create a connection to what they already know. Poor students frequently keep on without realizing their comprehension issues. Learning outcomes from the same material vary greatly as a result of this variation in self-monitoring. By adjusting their strategy to the requirements of the work, learners who possess metacognition are able to be strategic. Metacognition has huge benefits for problem solving. Successful issue solvers take a step back and think through their strategy. Is this tactic effective? Shall I try anything else? Have I previously encountered such issues? This introspective thinking keeps one from becoming mired in ineffective strategies, because they lack the metacognitive awareness to see when they need to alter. Less experienced problem solvers frequently stick with their first approaches even when they aren't working. It is possible to teach and cultivate metacognitive abilities. Using reflective writing or think-alouds to make thinking visible aids students in becoming more conscious of their own thought processes. Promoting self-evaluation and introspection enhances metacognitive monitoring, whereas teaching certain techniques and when to apply them increases metacognitive understanding. People who possess metacognitive abilities are better equipped to guide their own cognitive growth and become more proficient learners and thinkers. Stress's effects on cognitive abilities. Long-term stress affects thinking in a number of ways. Cortisol and other stress hormones are released by the body when it is under stress. In the short term, this can actually improve some cognitive processes, making it easier to pay attention and concentrate while facing imminent dangers. However, there are drawbacks to chronic stress, which lasts for weeks or months. It makes it more difficult to focus, decreases cognitive flexibility, and damages memory. Chronic stress is especially harmful to the hippocampus, which is essential for creating new memories. In fact, prolonged exposure to stress chemicals can cause the hippocampus to atrophy and lose some of its function. This explains why learning and remembering new knowledge might be difficult for persons who are under a lot of stress. Additionally impacted is the prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of executive functions. Stress lowers activity in this area, which affects impulse control, judgment, and decision-making. Stress has a variety of effects on cognitive function. It uses up mental energy, which reduces the amount of capacity for other activities. It disrupts sleep, which makes cognitive function even worse. It can result in despair and anxiety, both of which have an impact on thinking. The cumulative impact may be significant. While basic capacity is unaffected, long-term stress significantly lowers functional intelligence. Therefore, stress management is essential for cognitive health. Effective time management, social support, mindfulness exercises, exercise, and enough sleep all contribute to stress reduction and cognitive function preservation. Stress reduction strategies can enhance academic achievement and cognitive development in kids raised in high-stress situations. Intelligence can thrive when the brain is shielded from ongoing stress. Meditation and mindfulness have an impact on cognition. The structure and function of the brain are influenced by contemplative practices. Studies on mindfulness and meditation have shown quantifiable changes in the brain. The brain areas linked to self-awareness, emotion control, and attention exhibit structural variations in regular meditators. These alterations imply that, similar to how physical training reshapes the body, mental training via meditation can reshape the brain. The practice of mindfulness meditation entails focusing on the experience of the present moment with acceptance and without passing judgment. This technique seems to improve focus and lessen daydreaming. Research indicates that even a short mindfulness training session can enhance performance on attentional activities and lessen the propensity for thoughts to wander. Students who practice mindfulness report higher academic achievement, most likely as a result of increased focus and less stress. By lowering automatic thought processes and raising awareness, meditation may improve cognitive flexibility and creativity. Meditation makes room for fresh perspectives. According to some studies, those who practice mindfulness are more adept at divergent thinking and coming up with original solutions. They might be more receptive to fresh viewpoints and less prone to become mired in routine cognitive patterns. With continued practice, meditation's cognitive advantages grow. While consistent practice over months or years seems to result in more significant changes, brief practice offers only moderate advantages. Considering what we know about neuroplasticity, this makes logical sense. Like all training, regular mental training changes the systems being taught. One method to consciously develop specific mental attributes is through meditation, which may improve cognitive performance. Digital tools have a dual effect on intelligence. They both improve and test cognitive capacities. The way we think and learn has been profoundly changed by technology. The internet gives us rapid access to a wealth of information. We can instantaneously converse over long distances. To improve memory, computation, and many other cognitive abilities, we employ tools. Technology enhances human intelligence in numerous ways, enabling us to do feats that would be impossible without it. But technology has drawbacks as well. Maintaining focus is challenging due to the constant availability of distractions and entertainment. Multiple gadgets and applications facilitate multitasking, which fragments attention and decreases the depth of cognitive processing. We might not care to remember items that could influence our memory systems when we can quickly look up any fact. Finding information easily could make people less inclined to learn it thoroughly and instead settle for superficial understanding. Digital communication and social media alter social cognition. We engage with more individuals, but frequently on a shallower level. We show edited versions of ourselves and others, which may have an impact on our empathy and social awareness. The asynchronous nature of most digital communication eliminates the in-the-moment exchange of face-to-face interaction, which may have an impact on the development of social and conversational skills. Intentionally using technology instead of letting it use you is crucial. Like all tools, technology is only as good as how it is used. Intelligence is increased through the use of technology to obtain high-quality information, develop deep connections with others, and facilitate learning. Cognitive growth is probably hampered by its careless use for continual distraction and superficial involvement. It is becoming more and more crucial for cognitive health to cultivate positive relationships with technology. Play's significance for cognitive growth. Playful exploration enhances creativity and cognitive abilities. Play is an essential form of education as well as amusement, particularly for kids. Children explore their surroundings, test hypotheses, hone abilities, and gain understanding via play. Imagination and symbolic thinking are developed through pretend play. Playing physically improves spatial awareness and motor skills. Social play teaches viewpoint taking, cooperation, and bargaining. These all support the development of cognition. Play's inherent freedom promotes learning in special ways. Play enables youngsters to follow their curiosity, try things out, and find patterns on their own, unlike conventional instruction with preset results. Deeper comprehension is produced by this independent investigation as opposed to passive information intake. Through play, kids can practice creative thinking, discover cause and effect, and hone their problem-solving abilities. Though too much discipline can stifle play, structured activities can have a role. There is little time for unstructured play in modern children due to the hectic schedules of academics and planned activities. Children could miss out on valuable developmental experiences as a result. Children's anxiety levels and creativity have been found to drop when unstructured playing declines. Play is an essential method of learning, not a diversion from it. Play is beneficial to adults as well. Playful interaction with concepts, pastimes, and difficulties maintains mental flexibility and curiosity. The readiness to try new ideas without knowing if they will work, and to treat issues light-heartedly rather than very gravely. These light-hearted traits promote continuous cognitive vitality. Play helps us learn, develop, and adapt throughout our lives. Cognitive advantages and language acquisition. Learning new cognitive systems, languages, and exercises. There seem to be cognitive benefits to learning a second language, particularly in childhood. Children that speak two languages exhibit improved cognitive flexibility, attention control, and executive function. Cognitive control systems are worked out by the constant necessity to choose one of two language systems while suppressing the other. Learning a language needs a variety of cognitive skills. You need to improve your spoken and written language comprehension, practice pronouncing words correctly, learn new vocabulary, and grasp new grammar. You practice your analytical, pattern recognition, and memory skills. Thus, learning a language engages several systems in synchronization and offers broad cognitive stimulation. The advantages might not be limited to children. Though maybe not as noticeable as in children, adult language learners also exhibit cognitive benefits. At any age, learning something difficult and complex promotes brain health. Learning a language can help older persons postpone age-related decline and preserve cognitive function. The secret is consistent exposure to difficult content, which language learning offers. Learning a language has cultural advantages in addition to cognitive ones. Different ways of structuring experience and comprehending the world are embodied by each language. Gaining knowledge of a second language allows one to understand various viewpoints and thought processes. Beyond any quantifiable IQ gains, language study is valuable due to this cultural and cognitive enrichment. It broadens both your mental and physical horizons. The connection between longevity and intelligence. Lifespan and health are predicted by cognitive capacity. There are weak but steady correlations between longevity and IQ levels, according to research. On average, people with higher IQs live longer. Even after adjusting for education, socioeconomic level, and other variables, this association remains. This pattern may be explained by a number of mechanisms, but none of them is entirely responsible. Perhaps health literacy is a factor. Cognitive aptitude helps with understanding health information, heeding medical advice, and identifying symptoms early. Higher IQ individuals might make healthier choices, adopt healthier habits, and use the healthcare system more skillfully. Over the course of a lifetime, these benefits add up to significant health improvements. There may be a correlation between cognitive ability and health protective characteristics. Higher socioeconomic status, which gives access to better healthcare, safer surroundings, and reduced stress, is linked to intelligence. Better total biological function, including healthier bodies and minds, may be reflected in higher IQ. Early childhood circumstances that foster cognitive growth, such as a healthy diet and minimal stress, may also enhance physical health. There is no determinism in the relationship. Many people with moderate IQs live long lives, while many people with high IQs pass away at a young age. Intelligence is not the only factor that affects health. Luck, social support, healthcare availability, lifestyle, and genetics all play a part. Although intelligence is only one small part of a complex jigsaw, it may marginally increase the likelihood of longevity. Machine intelligence and artificial intelligence are radically different from human cognition and being. The topic of whether machines can be intelligent is becoming increasingly important as artificial intelligence systems become more potent. What is the difference between human and artificial intelligence? These inquiries highlight the extent of our incomplete knowledge regarding intelligence. AI systems nowadays are quite good at certain things. They are superhuman at chess and other games, generate text, translate languages, and accurately identify images. However, their intelligence is restricted to particular activities and contexts. They don't have human-level general intelligence, cross-domain learning, flexible knowledge application, or the capacity to navigate the open-ended complexity of the actual world. Additionally, AI systems are devoid of awareness, comprehension, and true creativity. It is possible for a language model to produce grammatically correct prose without comprehending meaning. Without using their eyes, an image recognition system can spot patterns. AI that plays chess doesn't understand anything about the game other than movements and positions. Although these systems comprehend information, they lack experience, comprehension, and true thought. They are essentially different from humans in terms of intelligence, if we can call it that. It's possible that artificial and human intellect complement each other. AI is very good at swiftly digesting large amounts of data and identifying patterns in it. Humans are excellent at applying values and objectives, comprehending context, and making decisions based on insufficient information. Artificial and human intelligence may complement one another and make up for each other's shortcomings. Human intelligence may not be replaced by AI in the future. Rather, humans and AI systems may work well together. Other species' intelligence. Numerous animals exhibit remarkable cognitive capacities. Humans are not the only ones with intelligence. Other species exhibit highly developed cognitive capacities according to their requirements and surroundings. Dolphins hunt together and use sophisticated communication. Elephants have exceptional social intelligence and memory. Crows and ravens tackle multi-step issues and use tools. Octopuses move through mazes and handle objects with interest and seeming purpose. Because cognitive capacities are influenced by various ecological niches and evolutionary constraints, it is difficult to compare intelligence across species. Depending on what an organism needs to thrive and procreate, different things are considered intelligent. Bees use the sun to travel and dance to communicate. Birds that migrate travel thousands of miles. Despite their differences from human intellect, these skills show intelligence. Certain creatures exhibit skills that are very similar to those of humans. Great apes can learn symbolic communication systems, use tools, and exhibit self-awareness. Dolphins have intricate social networks and can identify themselves in mirrors. Words can be learned by parrots and used in seemingly meaningful ways. These parallels imply that other species possess intellect in ways that we consider uniquely human. Our knowledge of intelligence is enhanced by researching animal cognition. It demonstrates that intellect is a collection of specialized adaptations rather than a single entity. It demonstrates that learning, social complexity, communication, and problem-solving are all present in the animal kingdom. It serves as a reminder that, despite its extraordinary qualities, human intellect is only one aspect of a wider range of cognitive capacities that nature has generated. Among many intellectual species, we are one. Intelligence research's future. Cognitive secrets are still being unraveled by new techniques. Rapid advancements in neuroscience technology allow for ever more detailed observations of the functioning of the brain. Functional MRI displays the areas of the brain that light up in response to various tasks. Neural activity timing is revealed by EEG. Neural connections are mapped with previously unheard-of detail using new imaging techniques. In ways that were not feasible a generation ago, these technologies aid researchers in their understanding of the biological foundations of intelligence. Finding genes linked to cognitive ability is the focus of genetics research. Genetic variations associated with intelligence are revealed by large-scale investigations that compare the DNA of thousands of people. This work is intricate. Numerous genes, each having a minor impact, seem to affect intelligence. However, knowledge of genetic components may potentially guide cognitive development support treatments, possibly with precision medicine based on unique genetic profiles. Cognitive theories can be tested through computational modeling. In order to determine whether their models can replicate human performance, researchers use computer simulations of cognitive processes. When models are successful, they support hypotheses about the nature of cognition. When they fall short, they expose knowledge gaps. This method views ideas as formal, testable hypotheses that can be improved. There will probably be new questions as well as improved understanding in the future. The phenomenon may appear more complicated rather than simpler as our understanding of intelligence grows. We might discover that intellect is far more complex than we presently realize. We might find more efficient techniques to promote cognitive development. Or we can come to the conclusion that a lot of intelligence is still unknown. With every response, new questions are raised, continuing the process of discovery. Cognitive ability is only one aspect of human existence, along with intelligence and the reason for life. As we examine intelligence, it is important to keep in mind that intellect is not a good indicator of a person's value. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, respect, and opportunity. A person's worth is independent of their accomplishments, cognitive skills, or IQ. The mere fact that we are human makes us precious. A fulfilling existence cannot be achieved solely by intelligence. How we employ the skills we possess is what counts. Are we nice? Do we improve the well-being of others? Do we realize our individual potential? Do we discover meaning and purpose? Are we loved? And do we love others? Scores on cognitive tests are not as important as these questions. Regardless of IQ, a life full of connections, meaning, and compassion is successful. Certain cognitive skills are occasionally overvalued in our society, while other human attributes are undervalued. While we honor intellectual accomplishment, we might ignore moral courage, creative expression, practical knowledge, or emotional intelligence. Character development receives less attention than test scores, which we monitor and compare. Many people may feel underappreciated as a result of this imbalance, which warps what we value and reward. Realizing that life is greater than intelligence may be the greatest wisdom. Indeed, cognitive skills are important. They are tools, not goals, but they aid in problem-solving, learning, and navigating complexity. Living well, however we define it for ourselves, is the ultimate goal. That objective can be supported by intelligence as well as by many other attributes. We are ultimately more than our test results, our cognitive prowess, or any one aspect of who we are. We are complete individuals trying to make the most of our lives. Our journey through intellect comes to a gentle end as we return to rest and integration. From the beginnings of testing to the intricacies of cognition, from genes and environment to education and opportunity, and from the brain's structure to the essence of wisdom, we have covered a lot of ground. As we have seen, intelligence is complex and multidimensional, impacted by innumerable factors that manifest themselves in various ways, and it can evolve throughout the course of a person's life. It is up to you to decide what you learn from this investigation. It might be an understanding of the intricacy of human thought. Maybe it's seeing that intelligence is a dynamic quality that develops with involvement and effort. Perhaps it is the realization that there are numerous ways to be smart, different sorts of intelligence that contribute to success and fulfillment. Maybe it is just awe at the amazing powers of the human mind. It's normal if there are still questions. Even after decades of study, intelligence is still somewhat a mystery. We don't know everything, but we do know a lot. The complex mechanisms of the mind are influenced by experience and biology in ways that we are constantly learning about. There is a certain comfort in acknowledging that uncertainty is a natural aspect of life. To live properly, we don't have to know everything. Now, as you sleep, let these thoughts gently enter your mind. There is no exam to complete, no score to be concerned about, and no fear of being judged. This is only the sharing of ideas, the deepening of understanding, and the sharing of knowledge. With your distinct set of skills, your own growth and development path, and your own strengths and challenges, you are just the way you should be. The silent serenity of the night greets you. After processing complicated concepts, your mind is ready for a break. There will be new chances for growth, learning, and thinking in the future. But tonight is for relaxation, for healing, for letting your brain process what you've learned and get ready for the next step. Have faith that relaxation is necessary and not a waste of time. When the mind is at its most productive, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let yourself go to sleep, into silence, into the vast and soft darkness, where the mind heals itself and gets ready for the lessons of the next day. Good night.